All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on the 6 steps to building a business that will survive and thrive. My name is Coach Tim Kamsel, and I'd like to welcome you this morning. Appreciate you giving of your time. With the current economic situation and changes related to social distancing, I, like many other people, have had to pivot my business model, and usually these seminars are and I've pivoted and now offering them virtually through Zoom. So there's going to be some things as we go through here that I'm trying to keep as consistent with how the experience would be in the real world. And so I'm going to be asking you questions and ask you to participate throughout. So, for example, I'll ask you to raise your hand, how many of you have done, etc. And so just go ahead and raise your hand, whether you have your camera on or not, that's okay. Just play along as if we were in a real setting and we can see each other, because that's going to help make the best learning experience for yourself. So to give that as an example, how many of you have made a mistake in your life? So again, just go ahead and raise your hand to your computer, or hit the thumbs up button. Wonderful, thank you. I see a couple of you raise your thumbs up there. So then of you who have said that, yes, you've made mistakes in your life, how many would say you're experts at making mistakes? Yeah, I see a clap and a couple of thumbs up. Yeah, for myself, I have to put up both of my hands and sometimes even raise one of my legs. But here's the thing about making mistakes is we learn to walk by falling down, right? And as a toddler, we didn't realize that we were making mistakes because we were given encouragement and support and help. And so all we knew is that we were doing exactly what it is that we were supposed to do. So then what happens to us when we become adults? We are taught that we can't fail, right? And so what that does is it teaches us to stop putting ourselves out there. So I guarantee you'll learn specific steps, ideas, and strategies to help you stop making mistakes in your business and be a better leader, a better communicator, and a better influencer. But here's the catch. You must choose to put yourself out there and take action. If you simply sit and listen to what I'm sharing with you today, you'll absorb about 7% of the material. If you take notes, that actually jumps up to about 50%. And if you participate, i.e., maybe you write your notes in different colors, because then that's pulling in both your left hand and your right hand side of your brain. If you virtually raise your hand when I ask you to, if you respond to questions when I ask you to, your retention actually jumps up to 98%. So the only failure then is a failure to do what? And just shout this out to yourself. Yeah, so the only failure is to participate, right? So if you give 100%, then you're going to get 100% out of this experience. At the end of the seminar, I'm going to ask you to take action, and I'm going to present you with an offer that you're going to want to take advantage of. So can I get everyone's commitment that you're going to participate and take action today? Go ahead and raise your hand or thumbs up. Or fantastic. Thank you. So being in business is a tough gig sometimes. It's one of the loneliest jobs there is. So I first want to thank you all for registering for this webinar to find out what business coaching is and how to grow your business. There are 6 steps to growing your business that we teach at Action Coach, and we find that by doing it this way, a systematic methodology, which, by the way, we've been doing for over 26 years, has helped tens of thousands of companies. A little bit about my background. I was born and raised in Canada and moved to the US in 2005. So you're going to hear some words come out of my mouth that to you don't sound right, but I guarantee you that in my head they sound perfectly correct. I started working at the age of 15 at a local gas station where I opened the store on the weekends at 6 a.m. while the owner slept in. Then for the past 28 years, I've had a very successful career of managing businesses and coaching teams within corporations. I've had many different experiences on businesses that I think you all know well, like Kentucky Fried Chicken, Raid, Off, Ziploc, Saran Wrap, Edge and Skintimate Shave Gel, Scrubbing Bubbles, Pledge, Fantastic, Sargento Cheese, and Red Gold Tomatoes. These businesses ranged from 1.5 million in revenue to over 500 million. In that same time, I've coached, trained, taught, and mentored well over 200 people. It's very fulfilling to see someone I've invested into grow and develop into someone that could do my job even better than I could. People I've coached have gone on to become vice presidents, presidents, and CEOs of corporations, both here and in Canada. So a little of my why here. On the left-hand side, that's my family. On the far left, that's Tony. He's 24 and lives in Milwaukee. Then Enrique in the middle there, he's 19 and also lives in Milwaukee. My beautiful wife, Patrita. Then in front of us is our little guy who continues to tell us that he is no longer little because he's just recently turned 13. So I've chased my career over the past 10 years, which has required me to move frequently, and that's had a negative impact on my family. My wife's in a 100% commission sales career, so when we move, it takes her about 3 to 4 years to rebuild her business, developing her network and referral base. And unfortunately, I've been moving us every 3 to 4 years, which has had a significant impact on her career. Despite this, she's been incredibly supportive of me and my career at the expense of her own. This, coupled with the fact that corporations have been focusing less on employees and more on profit, led me to realize that this life was no longer a fit for me and my family. Additionally, I grew up getting teased for not having brand names because my parents could not afford them. Then my dad got hurt at work and was unable to work, so things were tough. As a result, I've always wanted to help others. I was a peer counselor in high school and a lay counselor at church. I was a big brother for a number of years, and my number one priority at work has always been to coach, train, and mentor people. My passion is to help others to become all that they can be. So with my business experience and my desire to help others, that led me into business coaching, as I know there are many business owners who can benefit from my help. I chose Action Coach because I believe it's the best option to help me realize my vision, which is that no business owner in the greater Indiana area would be without a coach. They'd not feel isolated, frustrated, or hopeless. Instead, they'd invest in allowing me to take them on an incredible journey of building their business so that they can use the profits from the business to enable them to realize their personal life goals. So a couple things about Action Coach. They are privately owned. Our founder, Brad Sugars, still oversees the organization. He's an entrepreneur and an author. Our vision is to create world abundance through business re-education. What that means is there are a number of businesses who are not running as optimally as they can because they just don't know what they don't know. So for folks who invest in understanding how to run a great business, the sky is the limit because of the fact that you're now much more open to and understand how to run a great business, and your competitive set doesn't. And then finally, we coach over 15,000 businesses each week around the world. We are the #1 business coaching firm in the world, and here are a number of accolades that we've obtained. We've got 1,000 coaching offices in 80 countries, and here's an illustration of the different countries that we operate in. So my job as a business coach is to help business owners make a lot of money. It's about helping you as business owners improve your business so that you can work less and make more, which ultimately sounds too good to be true. And the reality is that it would be too good to be true if we haven't been doing it with tens of thousands of businesses around the world. The system's not based only on theory. It's based on practical experience with real businesses achieving real results. So I'm going to reward you for your time today by teaching you a number of things. First is how to increase sales and profits. Second is how to free up your time. And third, ways to create an amazing team. Before we get into the meat of the program, I'd like each of you to share what your #1 learning goal is for this webinar. So just go ahead and write it in the chat box. And all right, I see establishing a brand. Wonderful, thank you. Identify needs to help start a new business. Great, thank you. Find out about my service. Wonderful, thank you. Starting a new business and branding myself. Thank you. Learn how I help organizations and how I can help. Great, thank you. Okay, so what you've just done by writing down your goal is you triggered your reticular activating system. How many have had the experience of buying a new car, and then as you are driving around the next week or so, you notice that everyone on the road seems to have the same car? Go ahead and thumbs up, or yeah. Great, thank you. So that's your reticular activating system, or your RAS for short. It's the part of your brainstem that controls your level of consciousness. It's incredibly powerful. Our subconscious spends all day working in the background to achieve the things that we tell it are important. So as you were looking for new cars, you didn't hone in on one particular one. And so what your reticular activating system was doing is just helping you research and gather information. But when you decided on purchasing that car that you ended up buying, you now told your reticular activating system that that was the most important thing for you. So now it was working on your behalf, scouting as you were driving all the different cars that were the same as the one that you chose, and it was pointing it out to you. So it wasn't the fact that there were more of those cars on the road than there was the week before. It's just that your subconscious was working for you to point those out for you. So when we set goals, we give our subconscious specific direction on what to work on for us. Have you ever had an experience where you couldn't solve a problem all day, but after a good night's sleep, the answer seems to come to you in the morning? Go ahead and thumbs up again. Yeah, thank you. So again, that's your reticular activating system, right? So as you're sleeping, it's still working on your behalf. So the point of all of this is goals are incredibly important, and they're critical in all that we do. To be successful as a business owner, you must have goals. At a minimum, yearly goals, monthly goals, weekly goals, and daily goals. If you don't currently have those, I would suggest that you write that down in your notes as a follow-up from this conversation to ensure that you've got those goals in your business. Because really, these goals, they become our compass to tell our reticular activating system what's most important and what it should be working on our behalf. So as a show of hands or thumbs up, how many people have heard the saying, if at first you don't succeed, try again? Yeah, so most people say they will try, but the reality is you can't try. You either do it or you don't. Trying is not an action, so therefore you can't try. We call this idea of doing or not doing the point of power. And you're either above or below the point. Below the point, people do three things. What do they do? I'm going to ask you to call these out for me. And again, I know that you're all muted, so I'm not going to be able to hear you, but just play along so that it helps your retention level. So what's the first thing that people do below the point of power? Yeah, they blame. And who do they blame? Anyone they possibly can. The government, their mother-in-law, their staff, their competition. Right now, a lot of people are blaming the virus and the fact that the government has shut down businesses and have the work at home restrictions, right? There's a lot of folks who are just burying their head in the sand and saying there's nothing I can do right now. So what I'd like you to do for me is point at the screen as if you're pointing at me and blaming me for something. All right, now look at your hand as you have it pointing at me and notice how many fingers are pointing back at yourself. Isn't that interesting? 3. So what do you think that says about who has the bigger control over the situation? So the next thing that people do below the point of power is they make what? Call out that second one for me. Yeah, they make excuses. Now, how many know kids that are experts at giving excuses? Thumbs up. Yeah, so where do you think that they learned that from? And then finally, the last thing people do below the point of power is they live in a state of denial. These people think that they're rock stars, but they're actually toxic and need to be removed from the organization because they're going to bring everyone down with them. So you'll notice that blame, excuses, and denial can be summed up with the acronym BED. So these people stay trapped in the proverbial bed of life. Now, above the point of people, notice that they can be summed up as OR. So these people actually take their OR of life and they chart their own destiny. When you're above the point, you take ownership, accountability, and responsibility for your life. So you can either choose to be powerless, living below the point of power, or powerful, living above the point of power. It's your daily choice. So by a show of thumbs up, can I get an agreement that everyone is willing to play above the point of power, at least for today? Fantastic, thank you. Now, even when we decide that we're going to live above the point and we understand the negative impact of allowing ourselves to be in the proverbial bed, it doesn't mean we're going to be perfect all the time. I remember one day I was in a meeting and became very frustrated. I was with a couple of the owners and some of the leadership team, and one of the VPs said something that really made me upset. So I excused myself from the meeting. I went to my office, packed up my things, went out to my car and started driving home. And then as I was driving, I started thinking about, well, I wonder what's going to happen if when I get home and how am I going to explain this to my wife? And so I decided that probably wasn't a good idea. So I turned around and went back to the office and went back into the meeting, excused myself for leaving. And fortunately, I was able to keep my job. So that was very beneficial that I made the decision to do the right thing. So like I said earlier, is we're going to find ourselves below the point of power on a ongoing basis, especially right now. The emotional roller coasters are quite significant. And so the most important thing is to acknowledge and realize when we're there and then do the next best right thing. And it may mean that we need somebody in our life that we can turn to give us that encouragement and motivation, someone to lift us up, someone to hold us accountable. So the second thing about learning is to make sure that we get the most out of every situation is this understanding this idea of I know. So does anyone know teenage kids who are experts at saying I know? Again, go ahead and thumbs up on or hands up. Yeah. Yeah, wonderful. So right, we tell our teenage kids or nephews or nieces something that we know they always forget to do, and we remind them about it, and the first thing they say is, yeah, I know. And really, we know that they don't know. So the interesting thing about that is when we become older, we get more polite about the ways that we say I know. We may be in a meeting and we cross our arms. We may actually just say it inside our head to ourselves. Or we may just subtly roll our eyes thinking that nobody sees us. But the reality is that this approach kills the possibility that maybe we can learn something from the conversation. Right? We're actually telling our reticular activating system that there's no value here and that it should stop paying attention and go back to work on the other projects that we identified earlier in the day. So instead of saying I know, we want to replace that with something else. So can I get agreement that everyone's going to treat today as a totally new experience? Show of hands or thumbs up on the, wonderful, thank you. So instead of saying I know, let's replace it with something that keeps our mind open to possibilities. A phrase like, isn't that interesting? Or, tell me more, right? Always keep an open mind to the possibilities that we don't know everything, and that even if we're an expert in a certain subject matter, that there's probably nuances and details that we're going to learn from that interaction that is going to be valuable. And then finally, to get the most out of all learning experiences, you must be willing to have some, and again, I know that your mic's off, but go ahead and call this out for me. You must be willing to have some what? Yeah, some fun, right? Business is hard, so it's important to build in times of fun and celebration, right? And the mistake that most business owners make is they save it up and say, okay, well, if I achieve this yearly goal, then we'll do something special, right, for the team, or special for the family, right? Or we'll take that big vacation when, and that when never seems to arrive. And so you want to make sure that you're building fun activities throughout the week. Have little celebrations, have little pauses, right? Especially right now, because things are hard, right? And so you want to make sure that you're finding ways to celebrate along the way, and give yourself that encouragement and that motivation, and just have a little bit of fun. So for us, Fridays are a consistent celebration where we have pizza and movie night, right? It's nothing significant, it's nothing expensive, but it's a way for us to celebrate the end of a week as a family and transition from the weekday into the weekend. So again, I'd suggest that you all think of some ways to have little celebrations throughout the week to keep yourself motivated and encouraged. All right, so there's two types of businesses. One is where the business is driving the business owner, and having them, they have to have their hand in all the day-to-day activities. All decisions need to be made by the owner. No one can do the job as well as them, and they end up working 60, 70, or 80 hours a week. The other type is where the business owner is driving the business. They have a team that takes care of the day-to-day, and things run very smoothly, and the owner is able to duck out early to see their kids in a school activity, or have 4-day weekends, or even take a 2-week vacation without a worry about the business. So how many of you know people who have been in business for themselves and ended up going back to a job because they got burnt out? Yeah. So unfortunately, most business owners have actually only really bought themselves a job. And in this job, they're working more hours and making less money than when they worked for someone else. And over time, this leads to burnout. And unfortunately, there's just too many businesses that go out of business. In fact, the stats are that in any given year, a business that opened will be out of business within 5 years. And that statistic is 80% of businesses that open this year will be out of business in 5 years from now. And the number one reason for that is burnout. So our goal is to move beyond being self-employed and climbing up what we call the entrepreneurial ladder, where we all started as an employee working for someone else, and then we became self-employed working in our own business, right? And this is where we call it having bought ourselves a job. The goal over time is to move from being self-employed or a solopreneur to becoming a manager, where we have employees working for us and doing some of the day-to-day, then to a business owner, where the business is able to run without us, to an investor, where we may have a couple of different businesses, or we've invested in the stock market or real estate, to a true entrepreneur, where we have multiple streams of passive income, and we've got the freedom, flexibility, and wealth that we probably went into business for in the first place. Most folks who go into business for themselves stay at that self-employed level simply because they don't know what they don't know, right? So they get into the business, they're an expert at their art or their craft or their trade. They decided that, hey, I don't want to work for the quote unquote man or woman anymore, right? Why are they making all the money when I'm doing all the work? I'm going to go out on my own. And then there's this incredible realization of, oh, there's all these other hats called business owner hats that I don't really know how to do. I didn't anticipate those. I wasn't prepared for this. And I look around to my peers, my other, business owner colleagues, and everyone seems to be in the same boat of, working tremendous amount of hours and, working hard and long and just trying to figure out how to juggle all of those hats and all of those balls, and don't understand that there is a better way. And so there's this formula for change that we have at Action Coach, and it's D times a V plus F has to be greater than R. And I'm going to talk through this. So D is dissatisfaction. So your dissatisfaction with your current situation times a vision of a better tomorrow plus an understanding of the first steps to take has to be greater than your resistance to change. Right? We're all creatures of habit. We all like our comfort zone. We all prefer not to have to change. And so with us being business owners and having simply bought ourselves a job and working too much and not making enough, we need to feel uncomfortable enough with that and then have an understanding of how to change it in order to overcome our natural resistance to change. So I thank you all for joining this webinar, because you've taken the first step in understanding what building a better business looks like. So at Action Coach, we actually define a business differently than most. It's not about buying ourselves a job. It's about becoming a business owner of a successful business. And to us, a successful business is defined as a commercial, profitable enterprise that works without you, the business owner. We have a methodology to build this successful business called the 6 steps, and I'm going to walk you through those now. And again, I'm going to ask you to call out some things as I go through this to have you participate so that we increase that retention level of your learning. And again, I know that your microphones are muted, so just shout it out to yourself when I ask. So call out the first step here for me. What is it? Yeah, mastery. So how do you know when you're a master of something? It's because someone comes and asks you to teach them how to do it. And here's the problem. When people start a business, are they a master at running the business? No, they're a master at their art or their craft or their trade, right? They're a master at carpentry or baking or engineering, or a master of being an accountant or a lawyer or whatever. So instead, you need to become a master at running a business. This is all about eliminating chaos within your business. The second step, call that out for me, please. Yeah, niche or niche, however you want to pronounce it. How do you know that you don't have a niche in the marketplace? You don't have a niche if you're competing on price. The day you compete on price, you don't have a niche. So this is all about marketing to bring in a predictable cash flow. Step 3, call that out for me. Yeah, leverage. The key to leverage in business is systems. So it will be up to everyone to systematize the company. This will buy us back our time. Then we build a team, then we hit synergy, and ultimately get to our results. That's the 6 steps that we need to get massive results and grow. But here's the challenge with that. Do you think that the average business is missing 1 or 2 of these things? Go ahead and give your thumbs up if you think businesses are missing some of these. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to now dig into each of these in a little bit more detail. So first is mastery. Back to my definition, mastery is a commercial enterprise. Right? And there's 4 areas of mastery. First is destination mastery. This is all about understanding what the vision is of your organization. Right? So what's the purpose of your organization? What's your why? What's the greater good that you're providing? Right? What's the ultimate goal of your business in terms of revenue and profit? And when is the business done? And so I'm working with one client who's decided that for them, their business is going to be done in 5 years, and their goal is for it to be $1 million business. So now they've got a very clear understanding of what their destination is. So then we can work backwards from that and say, well, what does that look like in 3 years from now and 1 year from now, et cetera. All right, so we can build towards that. Second area of mastery is money mastery. So this is understanding the financials of your business. Right? Having a very clear method and process in place for tracking your monthly P&L or income statement, understanding your monthly balance sheet. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to be an expert accountant and do the work yourself. You can certainly, and I highly recommend that you outsource the activity, but you should know how to read that information, right? And you should be looking at it on a monthly basis so that you know the financials of your company and that you can make good business decisions based on your financials. The third area here is a cash flow projection. So you all should have a cash flow projection for your business going out 4 to 8 weeks, depending on what your business model is. During these economic times, I suggest going out even further. And the idea there is that you know by week how much cash you're anticipating coming into your business versus how much cash you're expecting going out each week. And then you can be proactive by looking at that and going, oh, look, in 3 weeks from now, I've got a problem because I've got more cash going out than I've got coming in. And so now I've got some time to be proactive to course correct and fix that issue before it becomes a problem this week, as opposed to something that you're projecting out 3 or 4 weeks. I've had a client who, when we first started working together, they told me, well, hey, Tim, I just give all of my information to my accountant at the end of the year, and I pray that they tell me that I'm profitable. So that's certainly not the best way to manage a business, but I do understand that it is the way that many of us are managing our business. And so we want to put that discipline in place to make sure that we are tracking the financials and making good financial decisions on our business. So the next area of mastery is time mastery. The idea here is understanding where you're spending your time on a weekly basis, and then eventually also understanding where your team is spending your time. When we work together in a coaching situation, I ask you to be able to invest 4 to 5 hours a week doing homework, which homework means working on your business instead of working in your business. And the pushback that I generally get is, Tim, I'm already working 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week. How can I possibly find 4 to 5 hours more? And so I have my clients do a time study. And what they do is over a 2-week period, they track where they're spending their time. And then we analyze that and put it into different buckets. And generally what we find is there is more than 5 hours a week of time that isn't being spent well. So things that they're either quote unquote wasting time in doing, or things that they shouldn't be doing and they should be delegating or outsourcing. So for an example, right, we'll do this and I'll identify an area and say, hey, you're spending 5 hours a week on this activity. Tell me more about that. And then they tell me and I'm like, okay, so how much would it cost to pay someone to do that for you? And I'm making this example. Oh, $15 an hour. Great. And what's your bill rate? Oh, $100 an hour. So you're wasting, $85 times 5 hours a week on an activity that you should be paying someone else to do. And once folks understand that math, it's like, oh yeah, I'm losing, right, a lot of money every week by doing an activity that I probably should be giving to someone else. And so that's how we find the time to allow the owner to work on the business instead of in the business. And then the fourth area of mastery here is delivery mastery. So the idea here is having a process in place where you know that you're consistently meeting or beating your customer or client expectations. Many business owners assume that they're good here, but they've never asked their customers for feedback. They just assume that, hey, well, they would tell me if something was wrong. But the reality is that no customer is going to tell you that they're shopping around. They're just going to tell you when they've decided to leave and go somewhere else, right? And at that point, there's no way for you to get them back. And so having some system in place where you're getting feedback from your customers or your clients on an ongoing basis allows you to be proactive, to be able to fix any problems that you have before we move to the next step, which is sales and marketing. Because the last thing you want to do is bring more customers into your business and be providing them less than wonderful service. Okay, so then step 2 is niche. And back to my definition earlier, we now are focused on a commercial profitable enterprise. And the reason that it's profitable is because we have no price competition. Right? When you're not competing on price is when you have a niche. The only reason that your company exists, if you're competing on price, the only reason that your company exists is because you're the best price, and therefore you're setting yourself up for ultimate bankruptcy. The reason for that is someone bigger than you is always going to be willing to undercut you to steal share. And then it becomes a death spiral chase to the bottom of who's got the deeper pockets and can offer the discounts longer. So instead of competing on price, we need to make sure that we're focused on how to turn our business away from a price business to a business that is providing a true, unique point of difference to our customers. So I know there's a lot of concern about raising prices, and I hear it all the time from clients of, well, I have to be the best price because it's the only reason that my customers are buying from me. Well, we've done numerous studies to dig into this a little more, and it's simply not true. Most people are just too nice to tell the truth, so they say price is the reason that they're buying because it's a safe answer. But the surveys that we conducted puts price at about 10% of the reason that people buy, with service and liking the salesperson coming much higher on the list. And so our job in our business is to figure out what our niche is. And we do that by coming up with a unique selling proposition. Unique selling proposition is, what is it that differentiates us from our competitors such that we can charge a price that gives us a sustainable business model, right? Allows us to have the profit margins that we need to run our business and be able to continue to grow and develop it. And so if you don't have a unique selling proposition, this is something that I would encourage you all to start thinking about. Right? What differentiates you from your competitors? What makes you unique? Why do your customers come to you outside of price? Right? What other things are you able to do to make yourself unique and different, and something that your customers or clients will consistently want to purchase from you? Okay. The other thing that you can do in this area is to come up with a guarantee. Okay. So in every business, there are hurdles or challenges that prevent people from wanting to make a purchase. And so identify what that is and come up with a guarantee that overcomes that hurdle. So for example, in my business, the biggest concern or hurdle for people to want to purchase business coaching is that they're not sure that it's going to work, right? They're not sure that they're going to get a return on that investment. And so to overcome that challenge, Action Coach offers a guarantee. Right? Within a one-on-one coaching arrangement, we guarantee that your business will grow enough to pay for my fees, or I keep working for free until it does. And so that allows me to overcome that initial challenge and hurdle and dig deeper into the conversation with a prospect to understand, what their needs are and how we can work together to achieve their business goals. So come up with your own guarantee, right? Figure out what is the biggest barrier to your prospects working with you, and guarantee that you're going to make sure that worry or concern is eliminated. Now, if you can't think of something that is overcoming a hurdle or a challenge, then just look at something in your industry that you have to do by law and just guarantee that you're going to do that, right? And the interesting thing about doing that is you're probably going to be the only one that offers the guarantee. So you're going to be perceived as unique and different because you're giving that guarantee. Okay, so then From there, once we have our unique selling proposition and our guarantee in place, we start to focus on our sales and marketing. And the idea here is that we always want to be testing and measuring, right? We don't want to just put all of our eggs in one basket and into a marketing program and then find out after the fact that it didn't work. So I have a client who unfortunately did that. They spent all their month's marketing budget on one activity, and and they signed up for an 18-month contract, and it hasn't been working. And so unfortunately they're stuck, right? Because they can't get out of that contract, and it's not generating the leads or the business that they were expecting. And so we suggest strongly that you do something we call is a 10 by 10 marketing. And the idea of that is that you've got 10 different marketing strategies in play at all times, and they make up about 10% of your lead expectations. That way, if one of those activities don't work, you don't have all your eggs in one basket. If something worked this month, it may not work next month. And again, you're not stuck with having that activity fail. And the idea of testing and measuring is start small, right? And figure out which activities are working. And once you get that feedback that it's working, then you invest more into that activity over time. And then you're continually testing new activities. And so when you start, you're probably not going to have 10, right? So start with 3 or 4, whatever it is that you're able to. And not all of them have to be paid marketing as well, right? So doing networking activities and stuff like that, those are free. Doing social media is free. So come up with the activities that you believe are going to be the best for you, and then test and measure to make sure that they are working for you. So the next thing that we focus on in niche, as I said, is marketing and sales. And at Action Coach, we use a tool called the 5 Ways to Massive Profits. And let me explain how that works. So most business owners know how many customers they have, they know what their revenue is, and they know how much profit they make. So what do you think is the most important one here? Go ahead and type it into the chat box. I see revenue, I see profit, revenue. All right, well, it actually was a trick question because these are all the least important. The reason that they're least important is that they're just results. You can't go out tomorrow and just get another customer, right? You can't go out tomorrow and get more revenue or get more profit. This is where it gets really exciting. What you can do is focus on the 5 ways to massive profits that lead to more customers, more revenue, and more profit. So here's the 5 ways formula. Number of leads times conversion rate equals customers, times number of transactions times average dollar sale equals revenue, times profit margins equal profit. So I'm going to walk through this with an example just to help bring this to life a little more. So number of leads. Leads are the people who have come through your marketing activities to the point where they say, hey, I'm interested in a proposal from you. So in this example that I'm going to walk through here, we've got 4,000 leads, and this is throughout a 12-month period. So 4,000 people have said, hey, I'd like a proposal. And then conversion rate, that's the percentage of those people who have said, I want a proposal, who actually become a paying customer. So in this example, 25% said, I want to become a paying customer. So the math here, 4,000 times 25% is 1,000 customers. Number of transactions, this is how many times those 1,000 customers buy from you in a year. Right? So in this example, they bought 2 times a year. Now, some customers may only buy 1 time. Some customers may buy 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times, but on average, those 1,000 customers bought 2 times a year. Okay. Then average dollar sale. that's the same idea, right? In terms of some customers may only spend $10 a year. Some customers may spend $1,000 a year. So in this example, the average of those 1,000 customers, they spent $100 on each transaction. So 1,000 customers buy 2 times a year. They spend $100 on each transaction, means that the revenue is $200,000. Profit margin, 25%. So the profit in this example is $50,000. Does that math all make sense? Does the formula make sense as I walked through it? Go ahead and give me a thumbs up if, great. Wonderful. Okay, so here's where the really cool, fun part comes in, is most businesses don't track their business this way, right? So this is a relatively new concept to probably 95% of the people that I have met with. So just by putting this process in place, on average, we see clients improve each of those blue areas, each of those 5 areas by 10% over a 12-month period, just by tracking it. Because what gets tracked, right, gets more attention. It triggers your reticular activating system to spend more focus on it, and we see a 10% increase over time. On top of that, we've got 350 strategies across the 5 ways that when we start working together, I give you that and have you look at it and determine what are the 2 or 3 things that you want to test and measure in each of the 5 areas over the next 12 months. So we're going to come back to this in a couple minutes. When I'm going to go through the rest of the 6 steps, and then we'll come back and see the impact of implementing the 6 steps on your business over a 12-month period. So then step 3 is leverage. Back to our definition, we now have a commercial, profitable enterprise that works. And the reason that it works is because we're putting leverage into our organization. Leverage is all about systems. And systems stands for saving yourself time, energy, and money. About 80% of the things that we do in our business day to day is routine work. So show of hands, how many of you, when we used to be able to leave our homes, how many of you would drive back and forth to work the same way, take the same route? Show of hands or thumbs up. Yeah. And what do you do while you're mindlessly driving back and forth to work the same way? Yeah, you're probably thinking about all the other things that you need to be doing when you get to work, or all the things that you need to be doing when you get home. You're multitasking, right? You're not really focusing on the drive. How many of you have had an experience where you've driven somewhere, and then once you've got there, you kind of reflect back and you don't really remember the drive at all? Yeah. Because, right, it's that mindless driving, it's that routine work. You've systematized the driving. You don't think about, where's the blinker, or where's the windshield wiper, or where's the knob to turn the radio on. It's just all natural. It's systematized because you've done it so much. So think about that same idea in work, right? 80% of what we do in work is routine. And so instead of leaving it to chance, we should be systematizing it to make it run more efficiently and effectively. So a good example of this is answering the phone, right? If you've developed a way or methodology that works wonderful, right, in terms of the way that you answer the phone or the way that you respond to a request, then write it out into a script and make sure that everybody is following that process. Because why leave it to chance, right? Why leave it to each person who answers the phone doing it their own way and it not being the best way? So there's 9 areas that we focus on within the systematizing of the business. The first is a vision statement. So starting with a clear understanding of, what is the purpose of my organization? What's the greater good that I'm providing? What is my why? And then second to that is your mission, the how you go about providing that vision within your organization. Third is a culture statement. So what are your values and your beliefs, right? What are the things what are the rules within your company that you want everybody to abide by? and how do you want your organization to feel and act and look and behave. The fourth step is having SMART goals, right? So SMART stands for specific, measurable, obtainable, results oriented with a time frame. So what is it that you are striving for in your organization, and break that down into quarterly goals, because quarterly goals are much easier to achieve because people are able to wrap their arms around it and really understand, what it is that we need to get done. You want to have an organization chart of what does my company look like when it's finished? What are all the different roles that I'm going to need in my organization when it's complete? And then follow that up with positional contracts. So for each of those roles, what's the role and responsibility of that job? Right? And the reason that you want both of these is as your company starts to grow, you don't want to get to the place where you're like, oh, I know I need to hire somebody, but I don't really know what that next position should be. And then you end up wasting time trying to figure that out at a point in the growth of the company where you absolutely need to hire right away. So by having this done up front, being proactive, you're able to more easily transition through the growth phases of your organization. You want to have key performance indicators for all the roles within the company so that all of your employees know specifically how they're being measured, right? That there's a clear understanding of their day, how their day-to-day job ties back to the overall SMART goals of the organization, and that there's a clear understanding of how you're going to measure them each week, right? What are you going to hold them accountable to? How are you going to track whether they're being successful or not? You need to have how-to systems within the company. So one of the biggest things that I hear from business owners is, hey, I tried hiring somebody to help me out, but it didn't work out, right? They just weren't, they couldn't figure it out. They just, I guess nobody can do the job as good as me. So one of the things I always ask those folks is, so how much training did you do with them? What documents and processes do you have that they can refer to after the fact, right? What onboarding and ongoing training do you provide? Do you have those systems documented in a video or a training manual so that when they forget what you told them, they can go back to reference it? Or how open are you, or how much free time do you have for your employees to come to you and ask questions to get guidance and direction on something? Are you meeting with them on a weekly basis to check in and help, guide and direct them? And usually I get a funny smile back of the owner has this aha moment of, oh yeah, right. The reality is that you as the owner are an expert in all of this stuff because you've probably been doing it for multiple years. So how can we expect a new hire who we've spent an hour with training to be able to read our mind and take all of that expertise out of our head and put it into their head within an hour or two meeting? As I talked at the beginning of this webinar, is if you just sit and listen, you're only going to retain about 7% of the information. So same goes with when we're training our employees. If all we're doing is telling them what to do, they're only going to retain about 7% of that. So then finally, we need an overall management system within our organization, right? An understanding of how the operation is going to run, right? What the hierarchy of the business is, what types of meetings we're going to have, how we're going to track financials, how we're going to communicate to the employees, how often we're going to meet with our employees, how we're going to review performance, and all of those things. So then we move up to step 4, which is team. The definition here is a commercial profitable enterprise that works without you. And it works without you because we now have a team in place. So as your coach, I help you build your team. Okay? And the focus here is to make sure that we've got the right people on the bus and they're sitting in the right seat on the bus. Right? So if we've got the right people on the bus, then your job as the owner becomes 2 strategic things. 1 is the strategic direction of the organization, and then 2 is taking care of the team. If you take care of the team through training and development and motivation and inspiration and encouragement and support, right? Then the team's going to take care of the customers. If the team takes care of the customers will then take care of the business through repeat business and referrals. If the business is taken care of, it'll take care of you, the owner, through the profits of the organization. And so, how do we make sure that we've got the right team? The mistake most businesses make is they do a job posting and they interview based on wanting certain skills and experiences. And what generally happens is you attract people who are looking for a paycheck. It's hard to retain somebody who is only working for you because of a paycheck. And so at Action Coach, we flip this upside down and say the most important thing first is that we have the right people on the bus. And the way that we do that is we look for people who are interested in our vision and our culture. If we've got people who are interested in our vision, our greater purpose, our why, and they're aligned with our culture, then they're going to work for us because they want to, not because of a paycheck. Secondarily, then we look at, do they have the right skills and experiences for the job? But skills and experiences are teachable. A culture fit and a vision fit aren't. And so we go through what is called a deselection interview process, where we put more of the burden on the candidate to prove to us that they want to work for us versus wasting a ton of time pre-screening resumes and pre-screening interviews and one-on-one interviews. We actually do a group interview process to make your time way more efficient and effective. Then we move up to step 5, which is synergy. This is all about the organization starting to click, right? Synergy, by definition, is 1 + 1 = more than 2. Right? So you're starting to build a well-oiled machine here. You can start to focus on things outside of the day-to-day of the operation. You can start to think about, hey, maybe I want to open another location. Maybe I want to start another business. Right? Maybe I want to start, maybe I want more time off to travel or go on vacation. Maybe I want to sell the business. And it's now much more sellable when the business runs without you than if you're the only reason the business runs, right? So imagine an investor coming in and looking at buying your business, and they realize that if you don't come to work every day, the business dies, right? They're not going to want to pay you very much for that. If they come, alternatively, if they come and they see that the business is running without you, they don't need to buy you as part of the transaction. It's a passive cash flow opportunity. They're going to be much more willing to pay a higher multiple on that business transaction than if you're the only reason the business runs. And then ultimately we get up to step 6, which is results. The idea here is that you truly have what you probably went into business for in the first place: freedom, flexibility, and wealth. You now can start to think about things like, well, maybe I'm going to invest in real estate. Maybe I'm going to invest in the stock market. Maybe I'm going to have multiple businesses, but they're all going to run without me needing to be in the day-to-day. So I've got multiple streams of passive income. I'm really able to pull back and work towards becoming a true entrepreneur. So these are the 6 steps to massive results. And remember that to achieve massive results, you must take massive action. So let's revisit our little business model that I showed earlier. So just as a reminder, here were the numbers that I showed earlier. So number of leads was 4,000, conversion rate was 25%, customers 1,000, number of transactions 2, average dollar sale 100 equals revenue of 200,000, profit margin of 25% equals profit of 50,000. So remember earlier I said, just by putting this process in place and tracking these numbers over a 12-month period, we see an average of a 10% increase in each of those 5 blue areas. On top of that, we've got 350 strategies that we will look at when we start working together. And your homework assignment will be, okay, let's look at each of these and cross off the things you've tried in the past that don't work. Cross off the things that don't apply to your industry or to your business model. Circle the things you are currently doing, and then highlight the things that you'd like to start doing that you think would be beneficial to your business. And then we'll go ahead and implement, couple of those over the next 12 months in each of those 5 areas. So as an example, number of leads. One of the easiest things to do here is to reach out to your happy customers and get them to write you or give you a referral, right? Get them to introduce you to someone that they know that you could do business with. And because they already like you, you know you're going to get a favorable introduction. Conversion rate. Ask those same people to write you a testimonial or a review that you can use with future prospects or future leads, right? You can share that review with them and say, hey, look here are other businesses or other customers that are happy with the service that we're providing, and that'll help you improve your conversion rate. Number of transactions, how do we improve that? Well, one of the simplest ways is to remind people to buy from you. So sending out an email letter to let your existing customers know of special offers that you're doing or seasonal items that you have, right? Or within, a good example is within the hair salon business is signing people up when they finish their haircut for their next appointment so that they come in exactly at whatever that happens to be, 4 or 6 weeks, right? As opposed to we all get busy and we end up forgetting. Instead of going back in 4 weeks, we may go back in 5 or 6 weeks. And over a 12-month period, you end up losing a transaction or two. At McDonald's, average dollar sale, what is the thing that the cashier says to you at McDonald's after you place your order? Yeah, would you like fries with that, right? And some percentage of all of those customers end up saying yes, even though when they came in, they probably said to themselves, I'm not going to get fries today. And then the cashier asks them and they say yes. So what's your version of would you like fries with that? If you're not upselling every one of your customers, you're missing out on opportunities to improve your average dollar sale. So your homework is to think through what's your would you like fries with that? And then profit margins, I mentioned this earlier, but the easiest way to improve profits is to take a price increase. Like I said earlier, most people are reluctant and afraid to take a price increase, but the reality is most businesses haven't taken the price increases that they need to even cover their inflation over the last number of years. So if you haven't taken a price increase in the last year, do it right away. If you have taken price increases, but maybe not enough to cover your own cost of goods increases, go back and do that exercise and figure out how much your costs have gone up and take a price increase. We recommend a minimum of a 10% price increase right away with new clients. And the stats have shown that the worry of, oh, I'm going to lose customers, the only customers you end up losing are your D customers, folks that are only buying from you because they're buying from you based on price, and they tend to be your neediest customers. And so there's a double win here. When you take a price increase, some of those walk away, and it frees up capacity for you to bring on more profitable customers. And then the other win is just overall, you come out with a much stronger profit profile within your organization. So I'm going to now go through, if we were to implement these changes over a 12-month period, what would a 10% increase in each of those 5 areas look like? So number of leads goes from 4,000 to 4,400. Conversion rate goes from 25% to 27.5. Notice that's a 10% increase, not a 10-point increase. So 4,400 times 27.5 equals 1,210 customers. Number of transactions goes from 2 to 2.2. Average dollar sale goes from 100 to 110. So 1,210 customers times 2.2 transactions times 110 average dollar sale equals $292,820 in revenue. Profit margin goes up again by that 10%, so 27.5, which has profit increase to $80,525. Here's the really cool thing about this formula. Customers went up 21%, revenue up 46%, and profit up a whopping 61%. The reason for that is the multiplier effect, right? So notice that as you go down from the top to the bottom, it's all times, not plus. So anything you do at the top has a much higher impact on the bottom line than things further down in the list. So now, just for fun, let's assume that we continue to work together over the next 5 years and we continue to implement those strategies. We do some testing and measuring and optimizing and really hone in on the things that are working. And we continue to add 1 or 2 strategies in each of those 5 areas. So we keep getting a 10% increase each year. So here's what it would look like in year 2. Profit up 159% from that initial 50,000 profit level. In year 3, profit up 317%. In year 4, profit up 571%. And in year 5, customers up 159%, revenue up 573%, and profit up a significant 983%. So as a show of thumbs up, how many would like a almost 1,000% increase in profit over the next 5 years? Great. Yeah, thank you. So earlier I said that we guarantee results. This is how we do it. Right? So as you can see, from within that first 12 months, the profit went from $50,000 to $80,000. That's more than enough to pay for my coaching fees. Right? And so the idea here is, when talking with business owners, is if I can cover my fees, right, wouldn't it be worth getting started right away to have this trajectory of 1,000% increase over the next 5 years? All right, so I'm going to end with a couple of quotes to tie a bow in everything that we've talked through, and then we'll open it up to any questions that folks have. So the first one here is Richard Branson. He says, if you can learn to run one business successfully, there's no reason you can't run any number of businesses at the same time, because the principles are the same. So back to the 6 steps to building a better business and the 5 ways to massive profits that I just took you through. That's the foundation or the chassis of running a great business. So as you can imagine, once you learn how to do that well on your first business, it becomes much easier to replicate that on your second, third, or fourth business, because you understand it. It's part of your knowledge base and becomes very simple to implement in another business. Jim Rohn says, never wish your life were easier, wish that you were better. He says to work harder on yourself than you do on your job. We have a formula for success called BE times do, DO, equals have. Right? So the formula for success is, we all want to have certain things in life. And for those of us who have gone into business for ourselves, we've made a conscious decision that we believe that we can get those things that we want to have in life more easily through being a business owner than for working for someone else. But unfortunately, what most people do is they focus on the do. Right? I need to work harder. I need to do more. I need to do everything myself in order for my business to succeed. And that's where it leads to burnout, because we all have a limited amount of time in a day, and we just can't do everything that a business requires to be done on our own. So that's where the B comes in our formula of B times do equals have. We need to become the type of business owner that enables our business to do the things that are required in order for it to be successful, so that it can provide for the things that we want to have in life. Brad Sugar's our owner. His quote here is, where you'll be in 5 years from now will depend on the books you read, the people you associate with, and the actions you take. So the idea here is, like a tree, a business is either growing or it's dying. Right? There's no status quo. We as individuals are either growing or we're dying. There's no status quo. Growing or dying as business owners. Right? And so ask yourself, right, what am I doing to invest in my personal growth and development to become a better business owner? Right? What books am I reading? What seminars am I attending? What conferences am I going to? Right? Who are the people I'm surrounding myself with? Am I part of a mastermind group? Am I part of a business owner network where I can learn and grow and develop from interactions with other smart business people? Right? And then most importantly, from all of that stuff that we learn, what actions am I taking to move my business forward? And then finally, Tiger Woods says, no matter how tough you think you are, you can't do this on your own. Right? And he's referring to the value of his coach and his support team. Business, as I said earlier, is hard, right? And the mistakes that most business owners make, either consciously or unconsciously, is that they try to do it on their own. I compare this to professional athletes, right? No professional athlete who wants to be at the top of their game says, well, I'm going to just try to figure this out on my own. They all hire coaches, right? They hire coaches because they know that the coaches are experts at helping them improve their game and helping them take their sport to the next level. And that's the same within running a business, right? We outsource a lot of things within our business because we know that the outsourced folks are experts. Like we outsource our legal matters, we outsource our accounting matters. And so we should also be outsourcing our business coaching to ensure that we are at the top of our game and making the most of our business opportunities. Okay, so let's go back to the goals that you stated at the beginning. Does everyone feel that they learned at least one thing today? Go ahead and show of hands. Fantastic. How about 3 things? All right, thank you. Okay, so here's the most important point of all of this is, because at Action Coach we're all about taking action, I want you to write down the number one learning you got, right, on your own piece of paper. This is for you to take away. Write down the number one learning that you got today, and then more importantly, what's the number one action that you're going to take to apply that learning moving forward. Okay, so at this point, remember at the beginning I said that I'd be giving you an offer that you'd be crazy not to take action on. Well, there's 2 directions that you can go at this point. One is to say, hey, Tim, thank you for this information. It's been great. I've wrote a ton of notes. I learned a lot, and I'm going to take it from here. Maybe I'll buy a book or 2 to reinforce some of the learning, but I've got it on my own. Or for those of you who want to get massive results, you might be asking, how do I get more details about what you learned today? You might be saying, what are my options? So this is what we do. As your business coach, I work with you to implement the 6 steps we just talked through and the 5 ways in your business. I become your uncomfortable friend who pushes you when you need a kick in the butt, who confronts you when you're in blame, excuses, and denial, and who reminds you of your end game when things get tough and you want to quit. Because yes, business is hard, and there are absolutely going to be times when you want to quit on yourself and you want to quit on the coaching engagement. But just like a sports coach who continually pushes folks to excel, you have hired me to do the same with you so that you can achieve the business successes you want to be able to realize the personal dreams that you have. So if you choose the second option, if you want massive results and you're ready to do whatever it takes to get there, I have a special offer for you. As a thank you for watching, being part of this webinar, everyone can have a complimentary coaching session with me valued at $1,500. I have a limited number of these sessions that I offer each month. So if you're ready to take your business to the next level, you're going to want to get on this right away. This starts with a brief questionnaire, and then we'll get together virtually for a 2-hour deep dive into your business to show how the 6 steps and the 5 ways specifically apply to your business, and how the methods that we use through coaching can help take your business to the next level. And really, from a financial standpoint, look at what your financials would look like over the next 12 months, with the ultimate goal of determining if coaching's right for you. Right? Coaching's not right for everyone, and that's okay. Right? We want to make sure that you're making the the best decision for you and your business. If at the end of that time we both agree that it makes sense, I'll ask you to make a decision about whether coaching is right for you, and then we'll determine which program is the right fit. Look, my passion is growing businesses and coaching business leaders. So I guarantee that you'll walk away from that coaching session with at least one strategy to implement in your business immediately. That's just my thank you for your investment of those 2 hours with me. So if you want to take advantage of that complimentary coaching session, please send me a message and I'll get you scheduled right away. Because I believe that every business needs a coach, I don't want budgets to be a limiting factor. So I've got different coaching levels to fit with every type of business. One-on-one gets the most accelerated results. That's generally a 1 hour weekly meeting. I've got group coaching where up to 5 business owners are on a weekly 1 hour call. I do a monthly mastermind group. And then things like I'm doing today, free seminars. If you haven't signed up for my weekly business tip emails, you're going to want to get on that. I send out tips and facts and videos and things each week. And then I'm also posting information on social media. So like I said, each of these fits for every business. But the idea is as your business grows, you're able to upgrade to a more accelerated program so that you can get those business results faster. Got a few upcoming events that I want to make everybody aware of. So on Fridays, I do a free Survive and Thrive Mastermind webinar from 1 to 2:30. This is education, it's best practice sharing, and then community support and encouragement of like-minded business owners. So there's the registration information there. This session today, I'm going to be doing these weekly. And each week I'm going to dig into one of the different areas that I just talked you through in a little bit more detail. If you've already registered, so everybody on the phone today, you'll automatically be registered ongoing. And so you'll get weekly reminders and an indication of what the topic is, and you can decide if that's something that you want to participate in or not. And then I'm also going to be doing a 90-day reopen planning session, and I'm just working through the timing for that. But the intent there is, hey, when the economy opens back up and the restrictions get lifted, we all need to be ready for that and make sure that our business is in the right place to thrive coming out of this quarantine. And so we want to make sure that we're not, we don't have our head in the sand and saying, hey, I'm just going to, when the business opens back up, I'm just going to do it the way that I always have, because a lot of things are going to have changed, and we want to make sure that we're proactive and put our best foot forward when the economy opens back up. And the last thing here, just like to end with is, again, remember, we can all have great information, but if we do nothing with it, then it's all for naught. So make sure that you are implementing the things that you wrote down in terms of your learning from today and how you're going to implement that in your business, and make sure that you're taking action on that. If you need to, find somebody to hold yourself accountable. Make sure that you are implementing those actions to take your business to the next level. I appreciate everyone's time and have a fantastic day. Take care.